everybody, welcome back to my channel. Sorry if I look a bit worse for wear. I just have come home from work, bit traumatized, bit just, it's been a long day. Today, I'm actually quite excited for this because I sat down the other day and I just basically wanted to rewrite Allison dilaurentis' character. Now, let's not get this twisted, okay? Allison, before she came back, 10 out of 10 character. And that's in terms of as a villain. As a human being, awful person, worst person ever. Well, not ever. That's going a bit too far. But she's on the list, you know what I mean? But as a villain, I thought she was so good. And kind of, I know we have A, but I think Allison kind of really was like the villain of the show. Like everything always went back to Allison type of thing. And the flashbacks that we got given of Allison were really telling to her character and how she treated the girls, how she treated other people in the town. And overall, as a villain, I really think pre-season 5, she was amazing. However, I feel like when they brought her character back, when she obviously turned out to be alive, I think this was ultimately the downfall of Allison dilaurentis. I've done a whole video regarding the entire downfall and kind of mapping it all out and stuff, which I will leave linked down below. What was I saying? Oh my gosh. When she came back season 5, I think ultimately this is like kind of what ruined her character, because they tried to do this whole redemption arc and it just did not work whatsoever. And I just think it really ruined her character. And for a character who is the pinnacle of the show, the sun keeps going in and out. Go make your mind up, I swear to God. I just think for a character where the entire show revolves around this character, like this character is the show, do you know what I mean? So I feel like for a character of that magnitude, the return of Allison should have been much more than what it was. So I've sat down and I've kind of rewrote her character per se based on what I think should have happened to her character. I know I've said on this channel I want 17 different people should have been A, but I've kind of written it as if she was A. You'll see. But this is kind of going down the lines of when she comes back, she continues this villain thing that she always possessed. I just think it's interesting because how do you make a character that people got goosebumps when you mention her name to something where she just turned out to be so bland and boring? I just don't get it. Nonetheless, let's delve into this. I've made a little PowerPoint. I'm a little bit of a PowerPoint specialist, you see. So, as you can see here, I've titled this presentation PowerPoint Rewriting Allison dilaurentis. Let's start, shall we? Get rid of the flop redemption arc, please. Like I just explained, the redemption arc ultimately ruined her character, and it's a shame because her redemption arc, I loved what they were doing with Allison, and I'm currently reading the books right now. I'm not that far into it, I will admit, but I like the way they're going with a villain type of thing. Allison was evil, but terrible person, but she slayed the slayest out of the slays, and basically that just means she outslayed everyone on the show. Obviously Mona is the ultimate slay on the show, but Allison as a villain, yeah, that was a moment you had to be sat, you had to be present, you had to get Barrier at concert. I think they should have kept her wit and her iconic quotes that she had, things like it's called immortality, darlings, or whatever that was. Those one-liners stayed in the show, and that was a just thing that people would quote. It's immortality, darlings. I'm sorry, that got Yeah, you were there. Like, honestly, growing up watching this show, the quotes that came from it, absolutely. Are you joking? I loved her little one-liners. I think that just made her more mysterious, because obviously she dropped these one-liners during flashbacks. So we'd kind of get this quote and then be like, okay, wow, okay. Like, there's so much to this character that we just don't really know, but we're learning through these things, and I think they should have kept it. Now, obviously, Allison left because she was being tormented by A, and she ultimately came back once A had been, like, found out. So I just don't think there was any reason for Allison to come back quite timid and quite scared, because she had kind of lived her own life, and obviously it wasn't a perfect life when she was missing, but ultimately she was safer, and they thought that they had caught A, so there was no need for the timidness. Do you know what I mean? Obviously the next A comes into it, so that's that, but I don't really get why she came back quite scared. Of course she could have got some type of like PTSD from the whole thing, but it just didn't seem like it. Do you know what I mean? Especially because I've said in my next point, she showed bits of old Allison. When she came back, she lied to the police about what happened to her when she went missing, and she had this whole feud with Mona, which I've said here I loved the little feud with Mona, and I think that's the last time the show invented history books, because that was the last time I think I personally really, really enjoyed the show, apart from the dollhouse episodes, but I digress. That's an anomaly. We're not talking about that. But that feud was really, really cool, because you had Mona, who is a fan favorite and a really good villain on the show, compared to Allison, who, you know, when she's coming back, it's like, is she her old self or is she this new person? And she's trying to fight it, you know, showing her old self when Mona is kind of like, oh my god, what's the word? Like, I can't think of the word, guys. When someone like intentionally says something to get a reaction out of you, what the hell is that word called? Provoke. That's the word, sorry. Yeah, I've said here, Allison is not a good person, and she's a literal psychopath. And I don't think someone who did all that stuff in her past can come back and put all of that to one side, because it had to be inside of her this whole time. There had to be something within her that made her this person. So I don't think she would have come back and suddenly all that is gone. I think the total 360 of it all, like, oh, she's this terrible, mean person, and then all of a sudden, wow, she's so nice. What? I'm so sorry. Absolutely not. And like I said here, hashtag, let's get back into the writer's room and rework this ASAP. You know, the strike is done. It's just been announced that it's done. So let's get back in there, get to work. We're going to rewrite it, yeah? Yeah. Make this girl A. And I know I've said I want several people to be A during this point, but if we're going down this route, she should have been A. I think it makes sense that she took the game from Mona. I think taking it from the person who tormented you, although you're taking over this like terrible villain in the show, I think taking it from her tormentor does show this kind of powerful thing inside of her that we know that she has, this kind of powerful thing where she's able to take something bad that happened to her but actually work it so it's in her favor. I think that's really smart. I think it's really clever. I think it shows her as a really, really strong character, and the character that we had been always shown. Having A as Allison is so full circle, because if you think about it, the entire show started with Allison. The night Allison went missing was such a whirlwind of a thing that, and then imagine the show, because personally I think the show should have ended at season 6. I don't think they should have done season 7 and onwards. I just think it is so disconnected from the actual show that whenever I rewatch the show, I don't watch past Cece's reveal because it just feels disconnected. It feels just like that's not Pretty Little Liars. But that was just like an added thing to just carry on the show. I don't know. I just don't watch past season 6. But I think it should end at season 6. So I think to end the show with Allison being A is the most full circle thing the show can do. Because at the end of the day, everything throughout the show will always link back to Allison. Every character is connected through the show through Allison. So I think making her this villain is the ultimate full circle thing that could have been done. The evil torment she provided to the town cannot just disappear. Like I said here, she purposefully did the Jenna thing. And then she blackmailed Toby for the Jenna thing. So she is pure evil. She has the capability to do this type of stuff. And obviously you might be wondering, why would she become A and hurt her friends like this? Because she's done it before. Through flashbacks, we are constantly given the fact that she uses Emily's sexuality against her. She uses Hannah's kind of eating disorder against her, and then Arya's dad having the affair and Spencer having the affair with Ian and stuff like that. She will constantly use things against her friends to get her own way, and she will hurt them to get something that she wants. She's done this before, and I think she is really, really capable of becoming A and literally torturing the girls once more. And like I said here, she is the catalyst of her friends' insecurities. Whenever they had an issue with their lives, it would be because of something Allison had kind of put on them. And the whole of season 1 is kind of talking about Allison's treatment of the girls and how they have kind of PTSD from everything that Allison put onto the girls. And Cece literally becomes A because the girls said they felt more free without Allison being there. So she has the capabilities. Like I said here, the girls were always her puppets. Always. She would always try and do things and say things to favor herself. And obviously A liked to play with puppets too. And A liked to use the girls as dolls and puppets and stuff to have control. So ultimately, Allison and A are the same person, whether she's A or not. A is born from Allison, and everything that Allison did to the town, to the girls, that is what A is. A is born from Allison dilaurentis. And like I said, Allison is Rosewood. She is Pretty Little Liars. It's like she runs this entire town. She is the show. So to make her A would be so full circle. And like I said here, everything will always come back to Allison dilaurentis because at the end of the day, it does. Okay, so this is then what I think should have happened. I think Allison then should have been the person to kill Jessica dilaurentis. Obviously, I say this because I don't really see season 7 as a season of the show. So therefore, in my mind, things like the Mary Drake situation doesn't really exist in my mind. So I personally think that Allison should have killed Jessica dilaurentis for multiple reasons. Because obviously, Cece was the one that hit Allison the night she went missing. And Jessica protected Cece by burying her alive. So obviously, Allison might be angry that Jessica did that and kind of fought back and had a huge argument, and kind of out of everything, she acted out of anger and hit Jessica and killed her. And that would make more sense because obviously Mary Drake was kind of angry too at Jessica, and that was kind of the motive that was given. But I always felt that was just kind of weak. And when Mary was revealed as Jessica's killer, I was like, okay, next one, please. Like, I just didn't really think anything of it because I was like, that's the most obvious thing in the entire world. So I think having Allison be Jessica's killer would have been so cool. And obviously because she's A, she sends the video of her burying Jessica to the girls like A normally did. And because this didn't make sense to me because Cece was A when she found Jessica, and A then texted a video to the girls of her burying Jessica dilaurentis alive, which doesn't make sense to me because Cece loved Jessica. So if it was Allison, I think that makes total sense. And like I said here, she always had issues with her mother pre-yellow top night, pre-Allison's disappearance. There was always a bit of arguments with them two, a bit of a mummy issues type of thing, which, girl, I understand completely. So maybe the anger was built up. And like I said here, has real motive behind it. Who is Mary anyway? Where did you get her? Who is she?
Who is she? Who is she? Who is she? Where did you find her?
Now, obviously, the twin thing, working with Alex as A and like being angry at Jessica, and that was the whole thing. Like, the motive is coming through for Mary Drake being the killer, but at the end of the day, it's very lackluster. I'm very sorry, Marlene King. Jessica knew Allison was dead, but covered her up and obviously played like the victim. Like, oh my god, my daughter's missing. Girl, look in the back garden. Do you know what I mean? And then also lied to her about many family members. Spencer, Mary Drake, Cece, etc, etc. So maybe Allison found out a lot of stuff and used this to build up her anger regarding Jessica, and just like was the one who did it. I don't know, I think this would have been personally really cool, because then imagine like Allison like killed her like sibling's mum. I don't know, I just think like, hello, I'm sorry. Number 4, she took charge of the dollhouse. Like I said, I think Allison, big bad, should have been the person behind the dollhouse, and then she recruited Sarah and Cece along the way. So she used her friends as puppets in the past, which we've already spoken about, and that's essentially what A did in the dollhouse. Now, the way I've connected it, I've said that she met Sarah because they both ran away the same night, so they kind of bonded over that. And then Allison introduced Sarah to Cece, and that's when they became kind of like a trio, and Allison was like, right, I've got a plan. I'm going to be A. You're going to help me in the dollhouse. You're going to torture these girls for me. And then, yeah. I don't know. I just think that makes the most sense to me. Do you know what I mean? She ultimately just felt really betrayed by her friends. Obviously, like I said, they said they felt more free without her. They ultimately kind of pushed her out of the group, kind of, obviously when she was missing and kind of when she returned. So that's kind of the motive for that. And I think ultimately Ali never really cared about the girls, and we saw that from the very, very start. I think the only person Allison truly cared about was probably Cece. But I think the liars, I don't think she was ever really a friend for them. Do you know what I mean? I think the girls saw her as a friend, but I don't think Allison saw them as friends. Because I always question, why didn't A kidnap Allison to put Allison in the dollhouse? They had to use Mona dressed as Allison when A could have just got Allison. Obviously, we know A was Cece, and Cece might not have wanted to hurt Allison. But I think having the girls together in the dollhouse rather than a fake Allison would have just made more sense. So obviously, if Allison was A, she wouldn't be able to do it. Do you know what I mean? And I've kind of put some pictures here of scenes where it's alluded that Allison treats the girls like puppets. So there's a scene, this is from the night Allison went missing, and obviously it says here, Spencer says, you think that just because you brought us together, you can treat us like puppets? And Allison's like, but you are. Don't you see that? The whole thing with A is that A uses them as puppets. Hello? It's alluded here with a conversation between Sydney, Jenna, and Mona, talking about the liars, where they've said they don't want to go back to things. They don't want things to go back to the way they were. They remember how Allison treated them like they were her dolls. And there's just multiple times throughout the show where they are alluded to as puppets and dolls. Like Allison used to treat them like that. What if Allison was still treating them like that? And then number 5, I've said it's immortality, my darlings. So this is more just talking about Allison's impact on the show. Obviously, we know Allison's impact on the show, like I've said. However, I just wanted to elaborate, right? Allison was the show. Everything around A was Allison inspired. Obviously, Mona was obsessed with Allison. Same kind of with Cece. But the red coat had blonde hair. Allison's signature blonde hair. The whole Allison masks. Why would she want masks made? What if Allison was building an A team and wanted the masks as like, that's how they're recognizable? Do you know what I mean? Because then it makes the team just Allison. Allison is ruling everything. She's taking over the A team and she's torturing the girls with literal versions of herself. Literally the letter A and AD, Allison and Allison dilaurentis. Hello. And like I said, she is the original big bad of the show. She is the bully from the start of the show that caused havoc before A was even a thing. So ultimately, Allison lives throughout the entire show, and before she comes back, she is the show. She has these things that are recognizable to Allison, and Allison is such a mysterious figure throughout the show that it's like when these things appear, it's like, oh my god, it's Allison. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, she's everywhere. And A is quite literally everywhere. The treatment of the girls. Now, I've tried to kind of measure, this sounds so weird, measure how the girls were like tortured and kind of put them on the scale. Now, Aria arguably had it the easiest, and Allison had stated before throughout this show that, so the fact that Aria had it like the least worse kind of thought to me like if Allison was A, Allison would be lackluster to Aria, let's say, and take it out more on the other girls, because Spencer and Hannah then I think had it the most worst. Spencer had it the ultimate worst, but then second was Hannah, and I think Hannah and Spencer was the girls that Allison probably disliked the most. I think she was jealous of both of them, and obviously because Spencer was like the secret sibling, quite jealous of that. And then Hannah, there's one thing that always strikes me, and it's in the early episodes, Wilden kind of alludes to the fact that Hannah looks like Allison, and I just think that's very interesting, because when I was like 12 and I was watching the show for the first time, I always got Allison and Hannah confused because I was literally like, they're the same person. So that always kind of sticks with me, because when Allison comes back, Hannah changes her identity. And I think that's very interesting. There's a scene here, for example, during one of the Halloween episodes where she purposely tricks the girls into thinking Allison is being attacked, and where she says, look at you four, you're scared to death, I totally got you. And then there's a scene where it alludes to Emily has like hallucinated Allison, but I actually think it was real. That kind of never really got explained, but I think it was real, where Emily asks, do you know who A is? And Ali replies, of course I do. What if she says this because she's A? Do you know what I'm trying to say? This is season 5, episode 7. And this is very suspicious because Allison texts Emily kind of in the format of A. Why would you need to do this? Because Emily would have your contact number saved as Allison. You don't need to sign off as A. And if you wanted to sign off, why are you not signing off as like dash Allison? Why is it A? Maybe because it's like second nature to her? Interesting. Here there was a text from A that says A is for Allison, not amateur. So although it's obvious, it's screaming in our face, Allison's A, I kind of like it. Like it's okay for A to be someone that's obvious. I think it's fine. It's like with Aria, apparently they changed the whole thing because it was too obvious. I think it's fine, because if it's obvious that someone is A, it just means that your writing is really, really good. I don't think it always needs to be a thing of like, oh my god, let's totally shock the audience. And we've got Allison saying that she sees everything, and who else sees everything? I think it's reiterated throughout the entire show that A sees everything. Do you know what I mean? So Yeah. And I think the dollhouse should have been the ultimate end game. I think it should have been more than 2 episodes. I'm really annoyed they didn't utilize the dollhouse that much, because I think it was arguably the best bits on the show. So I think it should have been the ultimate ending. I think this is how I would have written it, okay? Allison would have got revealed as A in the dollhouse. Absolutely. Are you joking? I think that's so iconic. Imagine Allison is like dressed in the Charles like mask and outfit, and then like just takes the mask off and it's Allison. Screams, cheers and screams. And Allison has always been running things. She's the heartbeat of Rosewood and she's the ultimate controller. And then Allison dies after her reveal as A. I don't know how. It's up for interpretation, okay? You can, I don't know, but she dies in the dollhouse, right? Maybe she dies by her own like torture device or whatever. And I think the death is very full circle, because she dies in the dollhouse where she has been physically and mentally tormenting her friends like she has since the start of the show. And it's the ultimate conclusion, because her death is full circle, because the girl who had a fake funeral, the girl who has a fake gravestone, the girl who had a fake autopsy, she dies. That's it. That's the end of her. I think that would be very full circle of her, because ultimately she died doing what she did at the start by torturing the girls and making their life a living hell. I think it's honest to Allison's character. I think it's real. I think it's keeping the whole thing real, because at the end of the day, not everyone can change, and I don't think a character of Allison's like magnitude can change like that. And I think it's fine. I think it's fine if you want to bring someone back. You don't have to do this whole redemption arc. And I think a character like that, you should have just kept evil, because that's when she was the best. And then imagine this. The liars are attending her second and proper funeral, like actual funeral, which is obviously like how the show kind of like started. Very full circle, right? And then there should be a parallel to the first episode, like in this scene here where all the girls got a text and it like zoomed out on like dramatic music. Perhaps the girls are walking into the church where the funeral is about to happen. Camera pans out, the same song that was played during the funeral. This one? Wow. The memories, I'm so sorry. So right, imagine that's playing as the camera's like zooming out and the girls like walking into the church to have Allison's proper funeral. Oh, get me in that writer's room. Get me in there. Let me in there. Let me in there.
Let me in there, go on.
Megan, Big Brother just wants
Let
to
me
talk
in there.
to you.
Go on, let me in there. Let me in there, right?
And then final thing, like I said here, PS, no season 7, it's unnecessary. The show ends at season 6. That's my opinion. I love that. I'm so sorry. Get me in that writer's room. I just think this like just fleshes out Allison's character so much more, because ultimately at the end of the show she is just literally a shell of her former self, and I'm just like, that is not Allison dilaurentis. Like, let's be real, okay? I don't like the redemption arc. I think keeping her as a villain would have been the ultimate best thing to do. Oh my god, I can't believe they didn't. That is it for this video. I'd love to hear your opinion on the matter, on the subject. Yeah, make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.